Hey everyone, Elisa with Jots Designs. In this video, I'm going to be reviewing some resin that I got from Hippie Crafter. It comes with a brochure of information, which is great if you're a beginner. It's got all sorts of directions and tips and even a coverage chart, so definitely read through that. There's instructions on the bottle as well in case you do lose the brochure, and each bottle is clearly labeled as to which one is the resin and which one is the hardener. For this, I'm going to be using a glass cutting board that I got from the Dollar Tree. It's a great size for a project, and it's cheap, and it's even got feet on the bottom already. I'll be using some 2-inch electrical tape on the bottom, and that just helps remove drips easily once it's cured. So I just go around and cut strips, and I make sure that it's all pressed down well to prevent any seepage. Sorry. Then I trim off the excess with a utility knife. For the colors, I'm going to be using some System 3 white, and I've also got 3 colors of EpoxyCandy. I've got Copper Gold Leaf, Mulberry Bliss, and also Coral Orange. When you're mixing a 2-part resin, start with the hardener first. It's a 1-to-1 ratio resin, so you'll have equal amounts of resin and hardener. I'm only mixing 2 inches of each, but it's actually more than I need for this piece. But I wanted to make sure that I will have leftover, so that way I can see how it turns out in a mold as leftover resin as well. Oh, and I forgot to show earlier that I'm going to be using this 3-in-1 silicone oil for my effects. All right, so I'm going to get the resin poured out fairly equally here for the colors. Make sure you shake the bottles of colors just to make sure everything's mixed well. And I'm going to use about 10 drops of each color. You don't need much with these EpoxyCandy colors. They're very rich and vibrant colors and very easy to mix into the resin. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and give the video a thumbs up. All the products are linked in the description, as well as any discount codes I may have and ways to support this channel. I'm first going to clean off the fingerprint oils that I may have gotten on the glass using some 91% isopropyl alcohol, and then put down a thin clear layer of resin, and that just helps the other colors slide around on the surface. Now with silicone oil, it's best to layer your colors. If you don't layer them, you'll most likely just end up with divots all the way through the resin to your surface and end up with very little effects. That's typically what happens for people when they're using silicone, because they don't realize you need to layer the colors. So they get upset and it doesn't work and never try it again. Make sure you layer your colors. I've got this mold here, and it's what I typically use for leftover epoxy. And if I have leftover white, I like to end with that because it usually gives some extra neat effects in the molds. So once I get all of that poured in, I'll get started with the silicone. Now I attempted to make it so the resin wouldn't flow over the edge of this glass, but it has rounded edges, and I had just enough resin on there that it broke the barrier, and I'll show that right here after I torch, right here on the bottom right side. Oh, right there. So it started flowing over, so I ended up just going around the edge and covering the edge with resin, and you can see it's now flowing evenly all the way around and not just in one spot. Now I'm going to add some silicone oil to a medicine cup, and I'm using a toothpick to apply it to the resin. So I let it soak up just a little bit on the toothpick, and then I dab it onto the resin all the way down to the glass, and that's how I'm going to create my effects. I can get several dabs before putting it back into the silicone oil, and then if any resin comes up when I pull it out, I can just wipe that off on a paper towel. So just go around and add the silicone oil to your heart's content. Now, one thing with this resin, it definitely has a decently long working time, which is great, but it's not always the best thing for silicone oil effects. By placing a lot of dabs near each other, it makes barriers so that the cells don't just continue to spread out, and you can actually keep most of the details better. After about 45 minutes or so, once the drips started becoming stringy and slow, I scraped off the excess with a stick to avoid large drips, and that helps with cleanup after it's fully cured. I let it cure for about 24 hours before cleaning any residue off. I like to use cloth-like paper towels first. I sometimes will need several if I have a lot of silicone oil on there, but I wipe until I don't see any more coming up. Then I use isopropyl alcohol. I'll wipe that down several times. Since this piece really didn't have that much residue, I wasn't worried about divots in the clear layer, but other pieces I've done, I would normally spray with 2 light coats of polyurethane or a clear spray just to ensure that there's no residue remaining to basically touch the clear layer of resin and cause more divots. Then I mixed up some more clear resin and poured that on for the clear layer. Spread that around and used a heat gun to warm the resin and remove any bubbles. I like to use food tents to cover my pieces while the clear layer is curing, and that avoids getting some dust and animal hairs in there and definitely saves some headaches. This is a great resin for beginners and pros alike. It's got a longer working time and definitely many people prefer that. It cures hard and clear. And I definitely recommend checking it out along with other products that Hippie Crafter offers. I've been playing around with the polymer clay and mica powders too, and I love them. To finish this piece, I gently use a heat gun to warm up the drips and then pull the tape away, following the edge as I pull. If you do have any seepage under the tape, you can easily scrape it off with a razor blade. And if you have any sharp edges, you can easily sand those down lightly with a fine grit sandpaper. I often use the finer side of a nail file. I love how the back of this turned out as well. Definitely leave me a comment and let me know what you think, and if you have tried this resin and what you think of it as well. Don't forget to check out the links in the description for products, discounts, and ways to support this channel. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.